Which one? That one? You want me to move it?
No, this is.
What's up, guys? We're just fixing some of the lighting, but it's nice to see you guys again. I know the only thing I don't like about that light is you can see it on the board, but it is what it is. And we like using that whiteboard. I don't know if you guys remember the last time we were doing this. You actually did a whiteboard session.
Still showing that.
Yeah. The only way to get around it is if you just completely turn it around. I guess you could decrease the brightness, but even then, it's a full-on mirror.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah. So, guys, today, as you can tell from the topic, we're going to be talking about the ETH ETF approval or potential approval. I believe that's July 2nd, which is what's rumored. We have the largest Bitcoin expirations date ever, which I guess is this Friday. And then the big question is, what will Trump and Biden be talking about at the debates? Most likely, how will they mention Bitcoin, if at all? Kind of what stance will they take? We just recently had today Kathy Wood come out and say that she's going to endorse Trump because she thinks he's going to be the best for the economy, which I think is a big deal. Just kind of solidifying the fact that he seems to be the pro-Bitcoin candidate. But we can dive into the markets first, which if we pull up, let me show you guys some of the articles that we're going to be going through today, which I think are going to be pretty awesome.
Look at Sam's getting me all organized. This is awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm here.
This is a big day Friday, man. Big day. We got to figure out how to get this mic on, but big day. Largest expiration of options, triple witching, quadruple witching on Friday. Shows up 4. Over 25% of the options are set to expire in the money. So I don't expect a lot of price movement.
And in the money means?
Well, you bought an option at 2,000 for Ethereum and it's trading at 2,800.
Okay, gotcha.
That's in the money.
So that's good for the market?
Well,
or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't. So if the price was at $1,000, for instance, and you had a bunch of $1,100 call options or put options, they might push that price around to go hit max pain.
Okay.
But here they're already in the money, so I don't think there's going to be. I could be completely wrong. We could have we could have the debate tomorrow night, bunch of new news, market moves, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a colossal day. There is a lot of temptation not to trade right before this moment, though, because it can be violent.
Got it.
I think it's very interesting, though. Like I saw a lot of people picking up $60,000, $59,000. People that are value buyers. People moving into Bitcoin at 60, saying, "Hey, I'm very comfortable at 57 to 60 grand."
Is that what you just said? Value buyer? Is that what that means?
Yeah, like VanEck just bought some.
Okay.
On account. They're just looking at this saying, hey, look, this is a great time to add. You've had a 17. You can move to the next slide because I don't think this is that. I mean, it could be hugely important, but it doesn't.
Might not be at all.
It's not. The impending represents over 40% of the current cumulative open interest in over 23 billion could trigger a surge in market volatility. I just don't think. I think most of this is in the money already, and it's priced in.
Does this matter to someone like me who's just a long-term holder who doesn't really?
Nope.
So why is stuff like this news? Just like, does it create a buying opportunity or a selling opportunity for some people? And that's why it's important.
There's a lot of there's going to be a lot of people in the market that don't trade like you. Right? They're professional traders and they're looking at all this volatility and they're moving money between asset classes. They don't really care. They may look at NVIDIA puking out as it's done recently and say, hey, I'm going to move back in NVIDIA or I'm going to move into Tesla. I mean, Tesla's been getting beat up. So the whole market, people forget when Bitcoin and the other cryptos sold off here Monday, the whole market got sold off. NVIDIA got sold off. Tesla sold off. Everything is being sold off. So we've had a gigantic, and nobody talks about that. We had a 1% down day on the NASDAQ. That's a big move, dude. See, NASDAQ can move 1% and Bitcoin moves 16%.
A huge difference. And we also got Chris Inks. You ready to add him to the
Yeah,
stage?
I'd love to add Chris because I think there's been hey, Chris, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Man, what's going on? Busy morning for me, but how are y'all doing?
I've been listening to you. Bullish divergence.
Bullish hidden divergence. It means continuation.
Yeah,
bullish divergence is a reversal. A continuation, or a hidden divergence is a continuation of that trend. So yeah, looks like it's setting up pretty good.
Yeah, man. Tell us about it, buddy. Did the whole expiration thing on the options this week? Do you think that's a big issue?
I think the big reason why they mention a lot is because it's so large, right? And that's noteworthy because it shows, your options are usually where you get more of the professional traders, more of the institutional interest, and so that's why we kind of look at it a lot because you're kind of watching what they're doing. And seeing how interested they really are in the market and the price levels and whatnot that we're looking at. So I always expect when there's a significant amount of expiries coming up, I always err on the side of caution and I expect volatility, which means usually I won't trade at that, on that day. A lot of people try to trade events, news events, stuff like that. But the big thing about that is, you can get in and be in the right direction, but your stop loss ends up just being too close because of the volatility and you get knocked out. It's just an easy way to lose money. So for me, usually I make sure I'm in a position, well in advance of that so that it can weather whatever that volatility is, or I'll wait until after the event happens and then kind of look for an entry on that.
Chris, Sam was asking for a, guy that adds to his Bitcoin position every maybe month or every 3 months. Does this type of event, this expiration event that takes up a lot of oxygen in the press, should he even be concerned about it?
No. If you're a long-term, if your focus is a year, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, there's no reason to even be looking at the day-to-day stuff or these these events that come on, once a quarter. Because it's all going to be temporary, right? It's all in the grand scheme of your larger picture of what you're looking toward. It's all, just temporary in the scheme of that. One of the things I really like about the way that Gary talks about it, and I keep repeating this now because it just really kind of hits me well, is Gary's got, again, the long-term picture. And he says, man, listen, I don't really care what the price is day to day. My focus is not on price. My focus is on gathering how much I want to gather, and I think that's an absolutely great way if you're a longer term investor in something. If you've got a belief in whatever it is that you're investing in, I think that's absolutely the way you have to look at it. Because if you're there, if that's your thing, if you're like, man, listen, 5 years out, 10 years out, this is what I'm really focusing on, then it should be about acquiring as much of that as possible rather than worried about that point. And I think if you do that change of thought, I was thinking about this a lot. I think that does a lot to help you get off that emotional side of it, which is what most people in the markets, whether they're traders or even investors, oftentimes have to deal with, is all that emotion. And so being able to kind of reframe what you're looking at out of emotion, which is, price drives emotion, into more of, okay, well, I'm a collector, basically, I'm trying to collect as much of this as possible. I think that really helps a lot with the emotion, which means you can sleep at night. You can feel better. One of the worst things people get in the markets is they get in and they're very emotional, and that emotion is tough, man. It makes it hard to sleep at night. And because Bitcoin especially is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can't even rest on the weekends. You can't do that. And so I know, again, years have been doing this and years have been talking to, traders in crypto, and man, so many of them, they spend 7 days a week looking at the charts. Guys, I'm going to tell you what, I don't look at the charts 7 days a week. It's a business. I'm like Monday through Friday. Sometimes on the weekend, I might glance at it just to give somebody on Twitter or something, a little information if there's something interesting there. But for me, really, I focus on it. It's a job. I focus on it Monday to Friday. I don't focus on it overnight. I don't worry about what happens after I go to sleep. because otherwise you're just going to drive yourself nuts. You're going to get really unhealthy, and it's just really bad. So
yeah, I agree. Especially if you're, like you'd have to be trading a lot of volume to spend 7 days a week looking at this stuff, right? I think people are hiding behind these screens and they don't want to go out and get a real job. I just go back to, hey, look, let's go make some money, make fiat, mine fiat, and then turn it into Bitcoin. And don't worry about where the heck the price is, whether it's 60 grand or, maybe you don't want to pick it up at 70, but when it pulls back at 60, see, I made a comment to him this morning. I said, hey, look, why didn't we ever do the risk management meeting, the risk management 2-hour presentation with you and Phoebe Swami? Because everybody talks about risk management. Half the people listening to this do not know what that means, man.
Yeah.
Really. It does not mean anyway, I would love to do that with you guys. I don't know how that got dropped, but I think it would be really valuable. People think this is a very complicated thing to do risk management. It is not that complicated, but it is a missing piece. And I heard you on Scott's thing this morning going, dude, if you're not doing risk management, this is why I get so, what's the word for it? Why I'm so convicted, because, I also have a business on the other side called Node 40 that, like, I'm seeing, we just picked up a $1.6 billion customer, dude. Like, we've never seen these people. See, now we're starting to see them. Now they're having treasury issues. These people are now being audited. For 2021, there are a lot of audits going out. And so Node 40 starting to see these, because these wealthy people are very interested in protecting their assets. They know the audits are coming. Yep. And they know they're going to be expensive. I mean, imagine having a portfolio of $1.5 billion of crypto for 2021 and you have to report on it. I mean, the reason you're having to report on it is the IRS is asking you questions about it.
Yep.
There is no, hey, I don't want to answer the question. That isn't an option, man. But we're seeing stuff, Chris, that, like, when you see a customer pop in here, and they're not families, they're LLCs. So it's very confusing, right? Like, it looks like I'm an LLC, but I'm really just an individual.
Yeah.
Right. These people have $1.5 billion worth of crypto, and they've been in it since 19. They are like, I'm looking at them going, oh my God, man, these are monsters. Okay. These are people that are not here for the summertime. They're here because they have met max capacity on all their other asset classes. That's what I think. And no one's talking about that. Max NVIDIA, max Mag 7, max bonds, max equities, max real estate, max villas, max, what's the girlfriend called? Mistress, max helicopters, max private jets, and the luxury watch market is collapsing like a cheap piece of Kleenex in a tornado, dude. Like to me, these are real indicators. When you can rent any private jet you want in the world with 12 hours notice, that's an indicator. Okay, that doesn't happen in a tight market. When you can buy Rolex, you can't sell a Rolex watch today. Now, people say that's a dummy. Hey, listen, this is a deal. People buy all this stuff. Yeah. Until they can't and until they don't. Literally, Longchamps, the watch guy, sold $250 million less watches this year than they did last year. Wow. That's big. Wow. Yeah. Okay. That tells me the consumption demand is just, right? It's just going down. Wheat prices at 50% off the highs. Yep. Right. All the commodities. I mean, oil does not look good to me at $81, dude. I'm a seller of oil at 81, not a buyer. You? I think it's interesting right now. I'm kind of, I'm looking for it to continue higher right now. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced yet that we get, new all-time highs or anything like that. But for a bit right now, I'm definitely break even 65. Break even is 65 for an oil company to make 27% margin. When was the last time you heard about a dry hole? Even the word
Yeah.
dry hole. Do you live in Texas, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't
Exactly.
heard the word dry hole in 5 years
Right.
because there aren't any dry holes anymore. This is technology, man.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
You know exactly where it is. Drill it.
Well, and in Texas here, shale's the big thing, right? Shale is the thing. In Texas, we kind of figured that out, and figured out how to do all that. And there's a new plant that they're actually going to be building here in Texas that's going to be specifically, I guess, built to kind of handle shale. So, and when you do shale is really expensive to mine, right? To get that oil out of there. It's a lot more expensive than normal, just your pumps that are just straight down, up and down. And so we went 2010 to 2020. We had all that free money out there. Investors were out there. Private equity was throwing money at the oil guys. And so they were able to make money actually, drilling up the shale and doing all the horizontal drilling and all that. And so, and then they kind of pulled back on that liquidity. And of course, everything else that's going on, we had pandemic, so there's less demand and all that, kind of pulled everything back down. But here we go again, right? So liquidity is starting to ramp up globally over the last year. We've got, the U.S. is arguably the Permian basin over there is arguably the biggest plot of oil, in the world.
In the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we have all the shale and we've got all this on top of it, I mean, either, the technology has to become cheaper. It has to become cheaper to do it, or price has to go up. But if price goes up, I'm going to tell you, we're going to be banging the hell out of shale. We're going to be pumping the hell out of it. And
price ain't going up, dude. There's no scenario for me that price goes to $100 on oil and stays there. That would indicate, I mean, there's 1.7 million barrels that were pulled off by 2 countries.
Yeah.
Right. Voluntarily, Saudi pulled off 700,000. No, Russia pulled out 700,000 and one Saudi country pulled 1 million back voluntarily. Yeah. They do not do this. The OPEC's not even operating as a unit anymore.
Oh, yeah. That's not a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. They're done. So you can't this oil is going to find its way to the market, dude. When your cost base is 45 in the United States, you say it's expensive to drill, to frack. It is expensive. It's capital intensive, actually.
Yeah.
But the payback is much faster. Plus, there's a bunch of oil now from these fracking events where you're seeing independents go in because these are not recoverable by ExxonMobil. Their cost base is just too high. But there's a bunch of independents going in going, dude, there's $1 billion worth of crude oil down there that I can buy for $100 million. And it's going to take me 7 years to pull it out. I'm going to take that trade, but it does 50 barrels a day.
Yeah.
ExxonMobil does not care about
I can mess with 50. Yeah, exactly.
They can't even for them, that's like waste product, right?
Yeah.
And then you see what all these miners are doing, dude. The miners, if we watch the Bitcoin miners, they're becoming energy players.
Yeah.
Right? They are large megawatt consumers, and the energy players are going, oh, whoa, look at this demand.
Yeah.
They're waking up, and it's good demand. It's demand that can ratchet and change in moments. It could be the most valuable demand in the world if they start to collaborate and work together. And it would appear to me from the miners, dude, somebody's looking at, it seems to me like Amazon and all the big data players are starting to call the miners going, hey, what's going on here? I've seen one miner go up 100% in one day. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, no, miners, I think miners are one of the best plays out there, Bitcoin miners right now. Not every single one of them are going to do so great, but I think that in general, Bitcoin miners are really good. I think, Marathon CEO over there, he said it the best. He said, listen, everybody refers to us as Bitcoin miners, but we're just big data centers and data centers with many of them having really great energy contracts. And, when it costs you.
That's right, dude.
Yeah. And if it costs you, a couple of years and, however many, whatever it is, hundreds of millions of dollars or $1 billion to build a data center, but right now everybody's trying to get out ahead with AI, right? Because if you can get out ahead now, you're going to stay out ahead in the future, right? So you've got all this, but yet it's going to take you 2 years to build a data center that you could use, or you can go look at these Bitcoin miners. You go, well, are they at the level that we need them to be? Because, again, not all of them are. Bitcoin mining can deal with a lot more dirt and dust than, HPC and AI can. But, man, they start looking over there and they're like, hey, this looks good here. And so then you have what happened with, CoreWeave and, what was it? Cores.
Yeah, CORZ.
Yeah. And you had that big $1 billion, plus deal. And then 3 days later, they tried to buy them. And I didn't successfully buy them, but they, stuck with the deal. So, I mean, I think you're going to see so much more of this. I think Bitcoin miners, I've been so bullish on them since last year. And a lot of people missed that first, 10, 12 with most of them, 10, 12X we've had. But I think there's definitely a lot more upside, especially when you look at high performance computing, AI, the needs of these basic, again, data centers with great energy contracts. And so, man, I think it's just this perfect kind of storm if we're looking in there, which is why I continue to be really bullish about it.
Yeah, you bring up the miners. I think the term now that's being used is megawatt maximizers.
Yeah.
Megawatt maximizers, right? It seems like Bitcoin people always have to have their maxis.
Well, you got to sound like you're really a part of it, right? You're really go. Yeah, I think again, I think it's definitely. I think they're definitely the way to be looking here. Especially if you're looking for something other than a direct AI play.
Chris, do you think a lot of these miners are going to end up getting acquired?
Yeah,
next like 2 to 3 years.
Oh,
yeah, I think that's probably, and the ones you're going to see that are going to get probably or attempt to get acquired the quickest will be the ones that have the best contracts, the best energy contracts. Again, well, AI is going to give you a bigger return. It costs more to set up and to get going, but it gives you a bigger return than Bitcoin mining. But so in terms of that down the road, the energy thing, maybe it's not such a big deal. But especially at the beginning there, as you ramp up and get going, those great contracts, the better price you're paying for energy, just as you go, it's a multiplier effect on your exponential returns that you can look at. So, yeah, I think those with the best kind of contracts are the ones that are probably going to be looked at and attempt to be taken over here, sooner than the others.
The CEO of Wolf said, "Hey, look, we I heard that this morning. We're comfortable getting married to someone, just not the first person that asked." And that says that the whole sector's in play.
They're saying they're like a woman saying, "You know what? I know my worth. I'm not going to settle for you. You raggedy ass. Make sure you can take care of me." So I think, and I think that's actually the right way to look at it. It really is. These big companies with the AI and high performance computing, they're flush with capital. They're flush with the ability to be able to take on debt, and so and they need exactly what these data centers have. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in there for that. And I think he's got it right, though. I really do. I think that's just because the first person to come up and tell you you're pretty, don't get all excited about it.
What kind of surprised me, it seems like this could extend the Bitcoin miner pathway, right? Like, to me, this was a kind of a short-term trade. I had some money sitting in an equity account, and I deployed some into, I think, Iron, Wolf, and who was the other one? Iron, Wolf, and Cypher.
Okay.
And all of them are up, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think anyway, I thought this was going to be a relatively short play, 6 to 8 months. Yeah. I could see how this now extends out beyond that because of all this M&A, which is actually good because it allows me to hold the stock for more than a year.
Yeah.
And not have the short-term capital gain,
exactly.
Earnings gain, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very important to me. That's part of my risk management.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody ever talks about taxes.
Yeah.
Management, right?
Yeah, and they can get expensive. If it's just 1 day short of a year, and all of a sudden you're paying significantly more, with that short-term cap gains rather than long-term cap gains. And so, man, oh man, that if you're trading, especially if you're trading or you're taking multiple shorter-term trades, I mean, that can get quite damn expensive. It was really back, I think, around 2017 or so, when the IRS really started becoming a bit more vocal about, paying your taxes with your crypto and whatnot. And all of a sudden everybody's like, oh crap, I had this great run up and then it drops off, but I didn't, I took profit and then I went in and now I'm down, but I still have to pay my taxes. And everybody's like, oh crap, and so I think they're paying a bit more attention now. But even today, I still hear from people who are like, oh, well, they'll just have to fine me if they want me to pay. And I'm just like, why would you do that? This is, man, I mean, I hate paying tax. I mean, again, if you're paying taxes, the good thing means, hey, listen, you're making money. That's great. I still don't like paying taxes, but damn it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because, I don't look great in an orange jumpsuit. I like my life that I have right now.
Yeah, I think people forget too, even if you don't go to the orange wetsuit or whatever you called it, it's still going to be expensive. It's not like you can tell the IRS, hey, I am not answering your questions.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no option on this. When you get the letter, you get the letter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even when you file your taxes, there's the little thing on it. Have you held or sold or bought any, digital asset, in the last year,
see, that was a very important ad that they put into the tax thing. Yeah. Like, they put you in a box now. You're either going to lie or you're going to tell the truth. As soon as you mark digital, dude.
Yep.
We have a whole division talking to us from the IRS going, hey, can you guys help us?
Yeah.
They're going to need a ton of help. They're going to buy software solutions to solve this problem. They've added, I think they have a $36 billion expansion budget.
Yeah.
They're planning on hiring somewhere in the 30 to 40,000 people to do audits. And we're seeing the audits show up to very wealthy people. Not one, not two, not three, but a number of different large players that have been playing in this space. They're getting the letter. So I don't know what else I can do to tell the community, hey, you have to go get tax solutions like Node 40. You have to get Bitcoin lawyers around you. If nothing else, just know a couple of names that you can call just in case. But the government is coming after this space. They want their money. And we can sit here and be philosophical and argue about whether or not Bitcoin should be taxed. You live in the United States, man. This is a commodity. It's going to be treated like it, and you're going to get letters. So to me, it's an awesome opportunity, but people like the Roger Ver, this should not happen again.
Yeah.
We do not need more Roger Ver stories, dude. That's such a sad story to get fucked up over $50 million. Yeah. Like, if all I make is $50 million on this trade, then this was a dumb trade for me to deploy 4 to 10 years of my life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But people are difficult to convince sometimes, they've all got their, oh, well, I can just say that I didn't know.
Sexy, man. It's not sexy, right? Paying taxes is not sexy. No. Doing estate planning is not sexy and fun, but it is part of the risk management piece.
Exactly. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah. So I know you wanted to ask a question about the power law, what Chris thinks on that.
Yeah. So what is your opinion? This was a comment we got from Griff. What's your opinion on the power law theory?
So
is for the audience first before you give your opinion.
Do what now?
Do you want to explain it to the audience as well, what the power law theory is?
I'm probably not the best to explain it. I'm not an engineer or a physicist or anything like that. But I don't, for me, it's kind of like the whole S2F, thing that Plan B had.
Yeah.
Market flow ratio and whatnot.
Because I'm reading it, it says relationship that describes how a relative change in one quantity can cause a proportional relative change in another quantity.
Yeah. I have a lot of trouble kind of working with these things when it comes to stock markets and stocks and whatnot. Again, I'm not I'm not any kind of quant or anything like that. But I've never seen anything. These things come up every so often, in the markets, right? Whether it's stock markets or now, again, this is the second thing here in Bitcoin, really that's really stood out. Again, S2F being the first one. But nothing's really kind of, I mean, I guess if you step back and go, okay, yeah, it kind of stuck to it, but there's these real large swings. I mean, if you go there and you say, listen, price can be anywhere between 50,000 and 250,000, that doesn't do a damn thing for me. As somebody who's in the market, that doesn't do anything for me. I can't have a 4x swing and just say, okay, well, that's where it is. And so when I look at it, to me, it doesn't, I don't find anything helpful in it at all as a trader or investor. I don't.
Well, Chris, let me just challenge one thing. Is the channel helpful? Because for me, see the power law, and first off, I like these quant guys are much smarter than you and I.
Yeah.
Both of us will be humble enough to go, hey, you're smart.
Yeah.
However, I'm not day trading. Personally, I'm not. You might be. I wouldn't use this as a day trading thing. I think for a long-term justification, and that's all this is, right? It's just a justification. I do not need the power law or the stock to flow model to justify my position of a supply and demand commodity that is finite. And I do not think any of these mathematical models have ever mathematically modeled anything that's finite.
Yeah.
So if you've never modeled anything that's finite, right? If you've never modeled anything that's truly finite, I'm not sure any of these models really are going to be perfectly accurate, but it can give me a really good idea where I'm headed.
Yeah, I mean, it's wide enough. I guess that's my issue, right? When you look at it, the channel, the low to high is wide enough that you're almost guaranteed to be correct. But again, as somebody who's in the markets, even as an investor, the width is so great, right? The distance is so great. That for me, I just really have a lot of trouble kind of sitting there going, I'm going to fall into that. I'm going to follow along with that. I'm not saying it can't be right. Again, like you said it well, there are quants are a lot smarter than you and I are. But when I look at even long-term investing, if I'm going to look at something, it's just so wide that it really, to me, doesn't tell me anything, right? It doesn't really say a whole lot to me. That would make me feel better, honestly, being in that particular whatever that asset happens to be. So yeah, I mean that's just the way I look at it. Again, and I'm old. I'm old. I'll be 50 this year, and so maybe I'm kind of stuck in my own ways. I'm definitely humble enough to admit that. I'm not going to be right in everything I say, but I just haven't seen a reason that if I were to look at it, that it would make me, same thing with the S2F model, that it would make me feel any better or any worse about the particular asset that we were looking at.
Chris, I actually got a question for you. I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but do you invest in real estate at all?
Not at the moment. I have my home, and that's what I have at the moment here. I was looking at potentially getting involved maybe in some multifamily stuff here with everything that's going on right now. Commercial is just, Gary's been talking about commercial has been taking a huge hit, this last year.
In multifamily now, like, is it just to diversify? Like, do you think there's some additional benefit to doing that as opposed to being in something just like Bitcoin or some of these other assets?
So for me, it's diversification a bit. But it's also tax benefits on it. I think it's probably the biggest thing. And then it's cash flow. I think those are probably the two biggest arguments you could make for multifamily would be tax benefits that you get from it, especially then the cash flow. I'm not a big fan thinking of, I'm going to buy up a whole bunch, like 100 single family homes and deal with all that nonsense. I'd rather buy, a building that's got, so many doors in it. But yeah, just basically for that kind of thing, a little bit of diversification, some tax benefits, and then again, that cash flow. And these are things that that as great as Bitcoin is, we can't get from it at this time right now. So that's all. Not that it's better than or worse than or other than. It's just something additional to do with Bitcoin.
Makes sense to me. Do you know what a 1031 exchange is? Because I actually do not.
Yeah, 1031 exchange is when you buy a piece of real estate, and let's say I own an apartment building. I can then sell that apartment building. I have 90 days, 120 days to identify another property to deploy all of that capital. It has to be at least the size of the profit, and I deploy that capital into it. And I have an extension on my taxes. I don't pay any taxes on the profit.
Yeah.
So I keep rolling. That's one of the benefits of real estate, that I keep rolling and compounding. Another risk management term that needs to be discussed, compounding. No one ever talks about.
Yeah.
And probably as important as weekly and monthly risk management, right? Deltas, like how are you managing your swings, if you are. So that's what a 1031 is. Bitcoin does not have that functionality, right? Where you can roll profits. I think it probably never will.
So if someone's debating to do a 1031 exchange on a rental or pay the capital gains or get more Bitcoin,
I think it depends on every person. I mean, I'm looking at a deal right now that I would take a serious haircut on to get the cash in the door so I could buy $60,000 Bitcoin. I would take a haircut for that. I don't know that I'll be there in 3 weeks or 3 months to do that same deal. But I think that this is the kind of optionality that people having multiple assets should be looking at and saying, hey, should I take my 1031 exchange? Just go ahead and pay my taxes. What are taxes going to be in the future? I think taxes will be lower in the future, not higher. Because you can't just keep pulling blood out of these. The stone is dry. The middle is wiped out, man. If you right?
Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, with real estate, the other big benefit of it is you can take out loans, right? So you don't actually have to ever sell it. You could just continue to especially when you talk about multifamily, every 5-10 years, you can just refinance that, pull out the equity, and then use that equity, tax free, and use that to continue to invest. And so that's the other kind of benefit you have with that. So, if somebody's debating on whether to do that, of course, we can't give you all financial advice here, but, I would look at the whole picture. I don't think it's just a simple, well, do I do this or that? You go, okay, well, what's my cost basis in that property? Well, again, like Gary was saying, what kind of tax am I have to pay with it? If I look at the same period of time that I'm looking to hold that Bitcoin, does it make more sense to pay the taxes here and get in? Will I come out ahead in that time? Or does it make sense to 1031 exchange, and put off those taxes for later and potentially, down the line, kind of continue to pull cash through refinancing and do that. And so, everybody's going to be different when they look at that. I think that's something I think that's a great question that and people don't do this and they should. Okay. Take a few bucks, take a few $100, go talk to a competent, I would say tax attorney. I've got law school in my background, so even more than a CPA, because generally your tax attorney, they understand how the courts work. They understand how the laws are kind of looked at, and they can give you, I think, many times a much more creative look at what you're maybe trying to do than most CPA can. Some CPAs are been doing it a long time and can do that. But spend the money, guys. Spend a couple $100, $1,000, whatever you need to, because if you're talking about eventually 50,000, 100,000, $1 million more, that you're looking to make on whatever deal you're doing, spending $1,000 to talk an hour or two with a tax attorney is a great freaking investment, because they're gonna help you figure out what is the best probable way for you to do it. So don't be skimping on that, guys. Don't.
Yeah. Just to add to your point, Chris. When you walk in and you need this attorney because you have a letter in your hand from an enforcement authority, the retainer is going to be $15,000 before you have a conversation. So you have to get the retainer to lock the lawyer up to shut his mouth. There is no confidentiality between lawyers until the retainer is deployed and there's been an exchange of money I mean, that's the game they play, right? So
yeah.
You really want to be proactive. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not fun to think about it, but if Bitcoin has the capacity to go to $250,000, you're an absolute fool not to spend 5 or 10 grand on securing that position and making sure it doesn't get taken from you. Do all this work to have 4 years later have it fucking ripped out of your hands and a bunch of legal fees is childish. It's just such an amateur. It's risk management again.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It all comes back to that, right?
Totally, dude. Totally.
And you said
we need to have this. We need to have this show. Okay, like you and me and Phip. This would be a really good show. In fact, and him as a young guy.
I'll just listen.
Oh, totally. Oh, you're going to be able to contribute, dude.
Yeah, no, and the other thing you said earlier is something really great because I talk to our students all the time about it. You know, everybody thinks when they're getting into the markets, especially when they're trading, you know, they're thinking about, okay, how can I make this one trade make a lot of money, right? They're always thinking about the single trade. So as you know, being a businessman, it's about your systems that you have, right? You focus on your systems, the profits come, right? If you focus on the profits, you're liable to have issues along the way. And so it's the same thing with trading, right? So trading is all about systems. And other than that, it's about the other thing you mentioned just briefly earlier, which is compounding, right? Time plus compounding is going to take you where you need to go. If you're investing, if you're trading, if you're whatever you're doing, the secret sauce, the magic thing, it's time plus compounding. Compounding, the eighth wonder of the world, right? Know what they said? And so I don't think enough people really get that.
Yeah.
So, you know, focus on the system. Focus on making your system better, doing all that. Don't focus on the profits. Focus on your your return to risk. If you have to focus on something, focus on your return to risk. How much am I risking to get how much profit? A lot of people don't do that. They'll just jump in there and go, oh, well, I'm looking at this dollar amount, but they don't realize how much risk they're taking on by buying into that investment, whatever they're doing there. But, you know, if it's markets, you know, are you buying at the right time? Is it going to go down further? It's going to hit your stop loss. You know, if you're investing in a business, what kind of risk are you taking on? Is it some kind of regulatory thing that's happening that may change the scope of the industry? Is it some kind of economic thing that's going on right now, which, you know, you may be getting in here and then everything, the bottom drops out and goes down. I mean, so you got to really think about that. Look at your risk in your return in relation to your risk. And then make sure you understand that it's about systems. And then beyond that, it is time plus compounding that'll do the work for you. You can't be impatient, guys. If you're serious about growing wealth, you can't be impatient.
Yeah, I agree. Time will do a lot of the work for you. Reminds me of the story of Peter Lynch, you know, the great investor at Fidelity. They did research on the greatest returning holders of Fidelity. Do you know, have you heard this trick question before?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So who are the greatest investors in Fidelity's mutual fund under the Peter Lynch era? It's the people that died. Real good lesson for you, dude. Like, I wish somebody had told me this when I was 27. Whoa, just don't fuck with it. Just leave it alone, dude. If you're into some good stuff, leave it alone for 30 years and you're going to wake up. Literally the best performing assets in Fidelity were people that died and didn't touch the assets, just rolled it.
And, you know, and that makes sense. I mean, you know, everybody looks at Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett didn't grow to be worth, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars by, you know, by touching things all the day, you know, every day. He looked for value. Got in and held it most of the time, held it for, you know, quite a long term, right?
Yeah. How much cash is he sitting on right now?
Oh man. Yeah. And he just went in Oxy again. So
yeah. See, the thing is, Chris, I think there's a lot of large companies like him that have been waiting for 4, 5, 6 years, seeing the value just go up, and there's not the value prop for him. And he's just stacking cash. NVIDIA has so much cash on its balance sheet, it won't know what to do. Amazon's going blind with cash. Apple's going blind with cash. And at the same time, they have regulators coming after them going, hey, you're too big.
Yeah.
Europe, they're coming after him from all angles today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I think some of them should be hammered to pieces, right? I mean, these guys are going to take 30. If you guys send me $100 super chat right now, Google's going to take $30.
Yep.
It's like, whoa, like I want to file a class action immediately. Like that's ridiculous, man.
It's a big bit to take, right?
Oh my God, man. For doing what?
Yeah, exactly. For taking the payment and sending it to you.
I have the content. I'm on their platform. I have very few options to be on another platform.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that seems like anti-competitive to me. Anybody interested in doing it? Any lawyers that know anything about the whole Google issue? Like to me, this is a big issue that has to get sorted. If you did this on energy, this would be a federal offense, man. You can't just lock up capacity and charge people whatever they want.
Yeah.
Imagine in your storm last week if they would have shut the roads and said, "Hey, look, it's an extra $1,000 to come onto the road."
Yeah, exactly. But it's gonna be until it isn't anymore, right? I mean, it's kind of the way things happen, right? So, regulators here in the U.S., the way our system is set up, it's set up to benefit lobbyists, and it's the lobbyists that go in there and get the ear. And that's what's done. It's not, maybe what's best for us or whatnot. It's who's got the ear of whatever particular congressman or congresswoman that they're talking to.
Yeah. If anybody out there does know lobbyists that are involved in this whole Google thing, I would be very interested in chatting with a couple of lawyers about, because I just don't think that, look, the way I think about things, they can't charge 31%. So that number does not go up. It goes down, and it's not going to go down voluntarily. It's going to go down because there's pressure. I just think it's an interesting case study. I had no idea 30%. I'm like, whoa, it's cool if it's cool if they're driving traffic to me or something. I'm okay with 30%, but what are you doing for it?
Yeah.
Sorry to get us off track, but I think that's going to play into this. Like these fees, like that kind of fee, that doesn't live in a transparent world.
Yeah.
There is no 30% fee or a 7% real estate fee for putting a deal together. I mean, we're complaining about real estate brokers at 7%, and Google's charging 30%.
Yeah. And even somebody in the comments there was even saying, doesn't Apple do the same thing? If you put an app on Apple, which is why for what we do, we don't take subscriptions or payments or whatever through Apple or anything else, because those platforms, Google Play Store, Apple Store, all that kind of stuff, they're going to charge you something like 30 or 40% on whatever you're bringing in there. It's just absolutely insane. When I heard about that, I was like, man, it's crazy. That's crazy. Why am I sharing, damn near half of my revenue with you?
If a bank was doing that to you, you would be up in arms.
Yeah.
Every dollar that rolls through the bank, they get 30.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Hey, so I don't want to steal much more of your time. We got over 1,000 people in here. We've got some questions. One of the questions was, hey, my current net worth is in the real estate, 75% and 25% to Bitcoin, thinking about doing a balanced portfolio. What are your thoughts on that? And I'm assuming he's saying multi-dwelling real estate, not home.
Yeah. I mean, to me, again, obviously not financial advice, their situation, it's always highly dependent on your personal situation. And most people have to, I think, understand that, but they don't, right? But if I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, man, okay, so I know where I'm looking for Bitcoin. Again, we don't know any specifics about their real estate or how much of it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think your returns will be greater bringing that down 50 to 50, but you still get to hold on to a lot of the other benefits of the real estate, taxes, cash flow, stuff like that.
And amortization, yeah.
So I think I would think that would probably end up being probably a pretty good move, just generally speaking, without knowing all the specifics.
Yeah, again, you're assuming these are apartments. You're not.
Yeah, assuming that, right? Yeah.
This was a home, and they had equity in it. The answer is very different, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, you can always take, and depending what the position is in that real estate, it may make more sense to just refinance it and pull out that cash and put it into Bitcoin. And you have to just see, well, where do I expect Bitcoin to be? Is that return on my Bitcoin investment going to outweigh, whatever the loan percentage interest happens to be and whatnot coming on that and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of little parts in there that you'd have to look at. But generally speaking, and again, depending on your length of time you plan on holding the real estate that you have and you plan on holding Bitcoin, all those things are going to factor into it. But I think, as far as, appreciation, return or whatever, I think Bitcoin's going to give you a lot more on that. Whereas real estate's kind of having, an issue at the moment here.
Yeah. Your boy Fib, he said he would do a 75-25 real estate split.
I was surprised he said 25 real estate.
He'd be close to zero, but I think I agree with him. But because I think Bitcoin's going to outperform. And the cool thing about Bitcoin, it layers on top of the duration of real estate very well.
Yeah.
Like this guy's talking like he could flip out very easily. I've got probably $20 million worth of real estate with my brother that I can't just flip out easily.
Yeah.
Okay. Like when I think about selling assets, that's not one of them. Like
Yeah.
I don't get out of my deals with my brother. It's not like I can call him up and go, "Hey man, I want my cash
Today."
Well, he just sends me a check every month, right?
Yeah.
He's not sending me all back my principal. Even going to him and asking him to unwind it would be near impossible because it's fund.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this guy's doing it, but I most certainly think Bitcoin will outpace real estate in the next 3 years, which could be really cool because you could then, deploy it like we're not over with real estate yet, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's properties. You see that some of these big commercial properties went for $900 million 5 years ago, and they're being sold for $80 million today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's everywhere. It's Houston, Dallas. It's freaking New York. It's
Champion buildings too, man. Champion buildings.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And like you said, I don't think we're done yet either. I think we've got probably a good bit of more time, especially on the commercial side of it. Now, I don't think necessarily that it'll continue to drop at the rate that it's dropped. I think we had the big drop now because, like you said, 900 million down to like 80 million. That's a huge drop. But it's going to take a while, I think, to kind of stabilize. We might get a little bit of bouncing around maybe, but it's going to take a while to stabilize before it can actually go back up again. So, I mean, and then multifamily, in multifamily, there's a lot. I know, especially here in Houston, there's a lot of buildings still going on. Multifamily units and whatnot as well. So, are rents going to be higher, 5-10 years down the road? Yeah, probably. Especially, if inflation continues to push. But, again, when you're looking at, okay, the growth of my appreciation of my Bitcoin versus appreciation of that multifamily, again, it's not just a simple thing. I think a lot of people come into this, they take it really simply. They don't think deep enough into actually what they're doing. They're just thinking, oh my God, here, and the situation, everybody's situation is different. And even though Bitcoin may do a better appreciation over the next, say, 3 years, whatever their personal situation is, it may actually make more sense to go into some sort of, multifamily real estate or something like that. And I think that's a big part that a lot of people unfortunately miss. When they're listening to all the, the gurus and everybody online that make things sound really great, whatever it is, they don't actually look at their own situation and go, well, does it make more sense here? And that's where I think, again, you go and you talk to that tax attorney and you say, listen, here's my situation. These are my goals. This is where I'd like to be. Does it make more sense to do this or this? And, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. And that's me being a huge Bitcoin, a huge Bitcoin fan. Got to be realistic about it. Otherwise, you end up in a situation where maybe you're actually not as well off as you'd like to be at that point in the future where you're trying to get, even though, the appreciation of Bitcoin, say, was greater than what it would have been. So yeah, a lot of moving parts in there.
Chris, do you have any expectations for this Ethereum ETF approval? How close are you watching news like that, if at all?
Yeah. So I'm of two thoughts there. The first one is, we saw what happened with Grayscale, with Bitcoin launch, right? We saw the outflows and it was huge, right? I think they're holding something like 10 billion in Ethereum right now, I think, in their ETH. And so my first thought is you're probably going to see a significant outflow from them. The question is there going to be enough demand to sop that up? Where it'll be kind of, positive right out the gate. I want to believe it will be, but I'm really not convinced just yet. I know Matt Hogan over at Bitwise, he's saying something like 15 billion inflows in the first, I think he said 18 months, is what they're kind of expecting. That doesn't sound too far off to me. That sounds like that could probably be. The question is what happens right at the beginning. And it's because, again, Bitcoin and Ethereum are two different things, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum are not competitors. Bitcoin is, set to be the base layer of finance, right? Ethereum is kind of that way that makes, wire transfers, everything else cheaper when we think about it. So it's also the largest platform with dApps, stuff like that on there. So there is a reason for, investors to get involved with it and without reducing exposure to Bitcoin. I don't think it's hey, I've got Bitcoin and now there's an Ethereum ETF, so I need to sell some of my Bitcoin to get into Ethereum. I don't think that's the case. I think it's I've got Bitcoin here, and additionally, I'm going to add some Ethereum in there. And so that's kind of how I see it playing out. I really don't know how it works out the block, though. I really don't know if we start with a decline in it, and then some more upside to it, with what's going on with Grayscale potentially.
But are you changing any of your investments based off the ETF, or are you pretty much ignoring it?
No, I am watching it. I just still hold, again, for the longest time, ever since I've been in, Bitcoin was my first purchase in crypto. Ethereum was my second. So I bought Ethereum my first buy of Ethereum was at $15.97, 91 cents, something like that. So, I continue to still see Ethereum as a good product along with Bitcoin. I think the bigger play on that, and what's his name at VanEck was saying this on Scott's show, and I happen to agree with it, is with the Ethereum ETF being approved, it's what's being built on Ethereum that really becomes interesting. So, again, I've got my base investments in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I get more interested in what's built on Ethereum as opposed to necessarily just Ethereum. So, yeah, I might put a little bit more toward things that are built on it, for instance.
Got it. Makes sense.
Fibaswamy says he likes my T-shirt. Thank you, dude. I like this too. My little
T-shirt. Oh, Bitcoin.
My digital asset T-shirt. A few other comments. Do you have any other charts you wanted, or do you want to do any charting?
Yeah, I can pull up a chart.
Your time here, just anything that you got hot and heavy.
Let me see here. Well, I'll talk about some things that I've been talking about for the last week because I think they're really important to talk about. Let's get up here real quick. Talk about Solana. I actually have a Solana chart. I like Solana, by the way. I like Solana and Link still. I told people they should be buying Solana when it was down there around $9 and some change, and then Link when we got that dip down to $4 or $5. I said that should be a good buy right there. So I still like them as well.
Where do you think Solana goes there, Chris? I don't want, I'm always worried about talking about these other coins, but I think Solana actually survives this.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No doubt.
I think they're going to play some role unless we find some crime inside of Solana. I think they're going to play some role in this digital universe.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility for that as well. I think it's still got good upside. I still think we're looking up here toward at least up here around 400 some change.
Yeah, here's a guy that thinks it's worth $500 to $850. I've seen $1,000. That's hard for me to believe that $1,000. The market cap of this is what 360. What? No. Probably bigger than that, right? Market cap of Solana right now is 30.
I didn't know there was a Solana phone. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that one did so well.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But yeah, I mean, just here alone, we should easily be getting up here toward this 400 and some change up here. But that just kind of takes us out, and at that point, again, we look at this kind of as a 1 and a 2 here. So 3. I mean, I could definitely see this thing rallying up there quite a bit higher. And whether it does it this cycle or not, I don't think that maybe happens. I don't know. This cycle, I've still got this in the back of my head. I've still got this lingering. This cycle could really blow up toward the end, and really just blow people's minds with it. But locally here, I mean, locally we're looking great here. I mean, I've got an easy target up around 246 3/4 based on this diagonal here coming out. So I don't think Solana's done. I think we've definitely got some further upside with it. I've got, again, Ethereum.
Chris, at 500 to 850, if you think those are even achievable, we're talking about current market cap is 63 billion.
Mm-hmm.
It's at 136. So at 500, that's a 4x.
Yeah.
It's like 120, 140 billion dollar company. I mean, bro, what has gone on with the market? If Solana is worth 140 billion, like what's Bitcoin worth and what's Ethereum worth and what are these miners worth?
See, and that's exactly what I'm saying. This, again, does this mark the beginning of the end? Do we head off? We've kind of discussed this before. After this cycle here, do we pull back into a really bad recession or even a depression? I can't say that we don't. Or, does AI come in here and technology come in and really kind of take us to this golden age where things somehow continue to go up? The big thing obviously remember is that, the charts aren't the economy. The market isn't the economy.
That's right.
Liquidity, I expect liquidity to keep coming in quite substantially. And so, that liquidity coming in would be, to me, would be the driver of what goes on. It's money. What are they going to do with it? Well, they're going to try and, put it in there and dream of being rich, getting up there. So I can see a lot of that still happening there. I'm just not sure if that marks the top and then we're, in a depression for a while. If we are, the interesting thing is if we are, the one we were in 1930s there was a pretty quick drop down, 3 years. So I would expect this one to be more sideways. So it'd be more drawn out. But it took from 1929, it took to like 1956 to reach a new all-time high in the Dow. And so, again, we're all kind of just guessing of what may be happening here. But it seems like with that kind of valuation, with that kind of growth in a short amount of time, and what we've already had here, I can't say it won't happen. It's definitely a possibility. So, the goal should be, listen, be smart about it. If you're in the markets, make your money while you can now. And here's the best part about it. Just because the markets to go down, let's say go into some huge bear market, the economy was to go into some kind of depression or something, most of the big money is actually made on those downturns.
Yep.
Right? So most of the big money in the world is actually made on that. And so your position, if you learn how to trade, if you learn how to read markets, if you learn how to do these things, means that you've got an exceptional, you make what money you can now on the upside, and then you use that to exponentially increase it on the downside. And then when you're at the bottom on the downside, man, it's buy it, sit back, shut up, and just let it pay off for generations after that. And so I think, a lot of people don't think about that. They just think, oh my God, if it's the top of the market, if it's depression or recession, then it's the end of the world type thing. And, I think that's entirely the wrong way to think about it because you've got so much opportunity on the downside as well. And here's the thing. People are like, oh, well, I shouldn't do that because everybody's hurting and this and that. You know what? Everybody's going to be hurting anyway. You have one I'm a firm believer in that you have one most important goal, and that is to yourself and your family, because nobody else is going to take care of you. Nobody else, the government's not going to do it for you. They're going to make you believe they are, but they're not. You are responsible for you and your family. So go out there. You're not causing anything to happen. You're just like, listen, I'm smart enough to be able to take advantage of what's going on and protect, myself and my family. And that's the way you should look at it.
Yeah, I love that.
I agree. Well, I think that's the only way you can look at it, right?
Yeah. But a lot of people, they get into that whole moral thing,
Politicians played the same game. Hey, what's good for the American person, not themselves? The problem is you got Elizabeth Warren looking out for herself and her buddies instead of doing the job she's supposed to be doing, which is taking care of the American citizen. I totally agree, dude. I think you got to look at this. Everybody's family situation is different. I don't like if somebody bought Bitcoin at $300 and they're selling it at $63,000. That's their choice. Like it's cool, dude. You probably want a nice house, or you want a new car or something, or maybe your kid's sick. That is what I'm doing. I mean, I'm going to sell my Bitcoin one day. Hopefully I'll have an opportunity to sell my Bitcoin, invest it into hopefully digital assets. It'd be awesome to be able to stay in this space. I think there's a tremendous amount of growth here, opportunity. So for me, this is about me rinsing and repeating into the crypto digital asset universe. That's why I call it digitizing planet Earth. Because when you think about it that way, you don't really worried about the money. You're worried about data and electricity and mining and compression. Yeah. It's just, to me, we have an opportunity to invest in the future, and digital is the future, man. It's so simple to me, and Bitcoin must play a role in that. I think Ethereum, I don't know, maybe it survives, maybe it doesn't. It's very pricey to me at this level. Now, I know you like Ethereum here because you think it's going to move. Maybe it does. Solana should have a role. I think Dogecoin is going to have a role in X. Is it a crazy play? I know a lot crazier plays than Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, listen, man, thank you for being here. I know there's a lot of people been making good, really, they love you. This audience really does love you, Chris. I think they like you and I's and Sam's kind of difference in viewpoints.
Yeah.
And they love that we're supporting the crypto world. So thank you guys for all being here and listening. Any last comments? Chris, what are you watching for, and what happens on the debate? Does Bitcoin go up after the debate Thursday night?
Oh man, that's a good question. Does it go up there, or does it go when Trump speaks at the Nashville convention over there? Right.
When do you see the 16th?
July, yes.
Yeah.
July 16th. So that's 20 days from now.
Yeah. I think. Here's the funny thing, again, I'm looking for Bitcoin to probably rally, from where we're at. It comes in right around the time when he's going to, when they get the presidential debate, when he's going to be speaking at, at the Bitcoin thing. So, I mean, again, does it go up because he's speaking, or does it go up because, hey, it was going up and it just so happens to be timed with when he's speaking there? I think anything, the best part about it, is that Trump's made this such an issue that Biden and everybody else have to talk about it. And at the end of the day, what that means is more people are hearing about it. More people are hearing about it more often. And even those that are maybe late adopters are kind of being nudged more and more to look it up and find out more about it. And, this is what we need when we're talking about mainstream adoption, right? So, everybody's focusing on, Trump's going to do this or that. I'm just more focused on the fact that he's talking about it, making a big deal out of it, which is forcing the others to talk about it, make a big deal out of it, which means now all of a sudden, I wouldn't have thought 2 months back, I wouldn't have thought there was any way at the debate that they'd be talking about crypto. And now I'm like, I think there's a good chance. I don't know if they will, but I think there's a good chance. I think if Trump can slip it in, it kind of cements those that are supporting him because of his support of Bitcoin. I think it cements their support even more because he's talking about it on a large stage in front of a lot of people. So if he can slip it in somehow, I think that really helps him. And then it forces Biden to talk about it. And again, we're talking about a huge discussion on a huge stage. with a lot of people that maybe aren't even involved, or maybe haven't even, believe it or not, people haven't heard about Bitcoin. Maybe they hear about it. There you go. Right. So
Chris, I was told by somebody close to the Biden administration that he's going to bring it up.
That Biden's going to bring it up? Man.
I sure hope he does, because that 1 minute conversation on Bitcoin is going to turn into 3 or 4. And all Trump needs to do is start asking some really cool questions like, what's your policy on CBDC?
Yeah.
Sir,
yeah.
Be the first question, dude.
Yeah.
What is Bitcoin? By the way, Biden, what is Bitcoin?
Don't ask him that question. You might not be able to answer that.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's a very, like, how would you educate a guy that like bone up on this subject? This subject is a very hard subject to get boned up on. I don't even know. I mean, maybe Scaramucci's showing up because he hates Trump so much. Maybe Scaramucci's. I don't understand why Anthony is supporting Biden so much. He's like, dude, he's an enemy to crypto. And by the way, let me just remind you, you own close to 1,000 Bitcoin, bro. Like, what are you doing? I don't really get it, but maybe somebody's advising him. They're going to have to do a better job than they did with Nurbini and Peter Schiff. Like, I don't know if you saw that Bitcoin debate, but I thought that was horrific for Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
The best you can do from the, and no offense to these guys, I like these guys. Like I could spend a weekend with Anthony. I mean, as a friend, but the policy on some of these politics are like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah,
this is not healthy. We have a guy that can't spell Bitcoin in the office. Okay. And now he's going to start talking about it. I hope they capitulate, because I think people will look at that and go, you're just a fakester. Yeah. You're just saying whatever it takes but I think they're going to talk about it. And I think they're going to talk about it more than we think they're going to talk about it. Man,
I can hope. That would be great.
Right. 2 or 3 minutes in a debate. Now, it's a funky debate. There's no, the broadcasters can mute the president
when they're not talking. Yeah. And then no audience.
Yeah. So that'll be really interesting to see. All right, buddy. Well, listen, thank you very much. And really appreciate all that you do. You're awesome. It's been good doing these shows. Sam and I are going to start doing these, I think, 4 days a week. We may change the time around a little bit. Do you think there's enough demand here for 4 to 5 days a week of a 1 hour live show?
I think so. I think, again, the people that follow tend to really want to hear more and more, and I think that's a good thing. Again, I think you give this unique approach because you come from a certain level, right? That most of the people that are following you are not. So again, I've talked about this before. When people, we tend to think and we buy and we logic and we reason at our socioeconomic level. But often that, especially for the lower levels, that is not what drives what happens, right?
Right.
And so when you can learn from and hear from people who are in those upper levels, how they approach things, I think first of all, it helps give you a better understanding of how the markets and investments and just life kind of works. But also, I think it gives you, if you're really paying attention, a path to start taking so that you can kind of get to that level. So yeah, I think, again, I think it's great that you're out here doing this, man. That's why I do these things with you, because I like the angle. I like the, it's different. There's so much of the space. There are a bunch of young people that, and not to disparage anybody, but they don't have a lot, comparatively. And so they look at the market and these things at one level, at one way, but you have to see how it's done, because again, we're nearing that $100,000 level, and that's going to continue to bring in the bigger net worth people. And that's what's going to determine what's going on with the market. So I think you feel that void out there. So I think 4 days a week would be great for people.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for that. I am trying to give a different perspective. I think bringing him on board from both his age and his political viewpoint, that gives another perspective.
Yeah.
Dude, I wish some of this would have been available to me. where
Yeah.
like amount of millions of dollars, $100,000 that I have wasted through just ignorance. Like I just didn't know who to ask, or I didn't even know to ask.
Yeah, you didn't even know the question, right? Didn't even know the question was needed to be asked. Yeah.
I'm just making money, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're making 300 grand a year. You're like, hey, let's just keep rolling, man. If I can grab another 30, but I wasn't planning.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that, like, I have left large sums of money on the table by not planning and being highly reactive.
Yes.
Listening to my buddies about what they're investing in 2001. That was a train wreck. That's $7 million worth of just poof. Took me 20 years to make it, and you just blow it. The cool thing about me is I've always been able to make it up.
Yeah.
That's the problem for most people. I actually think I have created some losses so that I keep being very active.
Yeah.
Like doing stupid things like, hey, we're thinking about going to 4 or 5 days a week. What do y'all think? Just one, I'm committing myself up front, right? Especially if people go, yeah, we like that. But sometimes I've committed too much and not thought enough. And that's like having guys like you around me. I wanted to call you last night about deploying into something and decided not to because it was too late. But hey, listen, thank you very much, man. Really appreciate your time. We're going to run something, I think, around the debate. So look forward to you popping in. We're going to be laughing at these guys on the debate. It's going to be great.
Good times.
So thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Sam, what do you think? What do you get from Chris? Because you've been now watching Chris about three or 4 weeks ago. He's like, hey, what's this guy do, man? Like, how's it important for my life? So is he starting to add value to the way you look at the world?
Yeah, almost from like a mathematical perspective as well. Because my world and the political world is, the news media, the headlines, which is kind of like the hype and the emotion. So my side's more emotional. I feel like his side is, well, what do just the numbers say? If we take out all the headlines, all the emotion, like what he was talking about, okay, so if Bitcoin pumps during the debate because Trump mentions it, I'm emotional. So I go, oh, so that's why it's pumping. Look at that. Trump's mentioning it. This is a big deal. And then someone like him comes up and says, well, actually, the math is saying we're due for a pump. And so the math is telling us, well, maybe there's more to that story than what you're originally seeing.
Yeah.
So for me, that perspective is really useful because it tells me that there are foundational things that move society around, and it really just isn't the emotion. And that for me is useful because that's normally what the political world is. It's all based off of emotion.
Right. Yeah. That's I've never heard it said that way, but that's very interesting because that's why I don't like it. It's like, it's just too much emotion, right? It's not logical. There's no rational.
Well, it's hype. It's grabbing your attention. It's, you want to inflame certain things and then can join them because that's how you spin a piece.
Well, you're trying to make a logic in your mind, but like, see, this is what I like about Chris, because even though I'm not a day trader, he reminds me of the emotion in the market because that's really what he's managing. Like, price does not go from 67 to 60. Nothing changed for Bitcoin. Zero has changed for Bitcoin. If anything, my knowledge of the type of players that are in this shit, and they've been in this shit since listen, you heard me we started a little late. I got a phone call from my banker I met this guy in 2019. Okay. I cannot tell you the whole story but it's a pretty intense story that he was seeing all my banking. He had one of 7 different bank accounts. And he started watching what I was doing in Bitcoin. And he called me this morning and said, hey, just want to thank you. He said, first off, we've lost a couple of our guys. They're moving. There's a lot of movement in the space right now, dude. Everybody's moving around. Like, guys are leaving banks, making $200 large a year, and they're going to start their own firms, starting RIAs or whatever. Anyway, this guy tells me, he said, hey, man, when Bitcoin got beat up, I was just looking at what you were doing. He said, you did it with such conviction. He said, I went and bought a shitload at $20,000. Now, here's a story of a guy who wasn't doing the amount of research I was doing, didn't spend the amount of time, had a day job, didn't get caught up at 50, 40, 60, 30, and he just saw Bitcoin continue to drop and go, hey, everything that guy Cardone's saying makes total sense. He's not stupid, dude. And he started deploying and literally calls me here this morning and said, bro, thanks a lot. Like, I just clocked it, dude. Absolutely clocked it. Now, he's selling it at the high 60s and 70s. Why? Because he's made a lot of money, man. He's, you know, securing those. He might have bought some of it in a 401k. We don't know that. That's what he told me. So these earnings now are tax-free, right? So he can spin those trades around. He's been in NVIDIA. But like, there's just a lot of people. His wife, by the way, at 13 and 14,000 said, hey, we should dump this whole position. And he said, turn the chart off. Turn the chart off. What are you worried about, dude? What? And now it's at 60 grand. So, and people are puking. People are like freaking out. We should be saying, hey, if you hate this price and you think the price is going lower, you should sell it. If you think this price is getting hurt so bad, you should look at buying it. Okay. I think this is at 70 grand. I still use the franchise. If I could buy Popeye's fried chicken, you go research, dude. You go research what a Popeye's, go grok it or do whatever, chat GBT. Look at what a Popeye's fried chicken or a McDonald's franchise costs to sell crap, okay, to sell poison to people. You know, I think there's only 50 French fries in a large French fry basket, 50 to 60, $4.25, dude. That's 8 cents a freaking French fry, bro. Like, this cannot continue. So if you look at buying into a franchise like Bitcoin that has the biggest marketing team in the world, all the banks behind it, no maintenance, no human error, no humans to even deal with, no tax issues, no consumers, no customers, no complaints, no class action suits, and no taxes from the local people of where your little Popeye's fried chicken franchise is. Nobody breaking windows in Bitcoin. And you can hold it for 3 years, 4 years, 7 years, 10 years. Anytime you want, you can dump this franchise within minutes.
Franchise is 390,000.
390. That's what you got to put down just to get your name on it.
And then there's a 50,000 franchise fee.
Yep.
And then
it's 440.
5% of gross sales go
gross.
To
that's 10% of net. Okay, 9% of net. Give 9% of net to Popeyes. Okay, give 9% of Bitcoin to Gary. Like, that'd be literally like, okay, every year you got to send me 9%. See, this is a franchise, dude. Go through those numbers again. 240 plus 50, okay, plus 5% of the gross. Of the gross, dude. The gross is not the net. Okay, the gross is you sold $2 million worth of Popeye's fried chicken, irrespective of the profitability of that. You're sending somebody how much percentage? 5%?
5%. Yep.
5% of that 2 million. 100 grand plus. Oh, by the way, if you don't hit certain metrics, they'll pull the franchise away from you. Okay. So 340, that's what you said, right? $340,000 principal payment. That is 5 times the size of Bitcoin. 350. In fact, 5x. Okay. You cannot buy a franchise in the United States for anywhere close to what you can buy Bitcoin for. 5x, 350 at least, plus another 50. There's 400 plus 5% of the gross proceeds on a royalty trade. That'd be like doing business with Kevin, the Shark at the Shark.
Kevin
right?
Harrington.
Kevin Leary. O'Leary, right? Like the guy. Hey, I'll give you some debt and I get royalties for the rest of my life, right?
Well, I watched a TikTok about last week of a guy who bought a Dairy Queen. He walked you through how much he put up, how much money he made. This guy nets $64K a year off of a Dairy Queen. And everyone in the comments was like, wait a minute. We thought this was going to be like a right 200,000, 300,000. You're like, that's terrible.
It's $5 grand a month. Okay. To be a slave. So we're going to end with that. Bitcoin is the greatest investment opportunity in the history of mankind. I cannot say it enough. I beg anyone, any economist, any gold guy, any silver guy, any scientist, any genius quant guy, please come on this show and tell me why I'm just stupid, like stupid and stupid. I'd love to know a better 5 to 10 year investment thesis than Bitcoin. Would love to hear this debate. So thank you guys very much. Y'all be strong, be good. And by the way, do something nice for somebody today without having to advertise it or take it on your responsibility. Do something nice. Don't advertise it, and you'll be a better person tomorrow. So, all right, guys, thank you very much.